Hello, fellow stampers. This is Yana Smakula for SimonsSaysStamp.com. Welcome back for another Yippee for Yana video. In this episode, I'm sharing a summary, positive mermaid vibes card with Simon's latest Be a Mermaid stamp set. This is a fun and easy to make project that doesn't require a whole lot of supplies. I started to work on my card by heat embossing the Out to Sea background stamp in Simon's detail white embossing powder on sea glass cardstock. I tried stamping this background in black on white and coloring it with Copic markers for a similar look, but truth be told, I really overcomplicated it. So I gave that idea up and I just did good old heat embossing in white embossing powder. After all, white embossing always looks fantastic, and it works really well for this stamp. I did all the usual preparations. I treated my panel with anti-static powder. I inked my stamp with clear embossing ink. I used my Hero Arts embossing ink pad as it is the cleanest one and the juiciest one I have in my stash. All of my other embossing ink pads are either pretty dirty from inking dirty stamps or a bit on the dry side and in a desperate need of re-inking. I did use my MISTI stamping tool here as I prefer to use this tool when I stamp these large background stamps. It makes it so much easier. The paper never shifts, the impressions are always nice and crisp, and overall, MISTI is a must-have tool to own. I used my detailed white embossing powder from Simon. This powder is fantastic for detailed images such as these waves. And having covered the background with powder, I heat set it with my heat tool to melt the powder in place. I love the look of these waves on light blue cardstock, and I think that this background would also be fun to emboss on various shades of blue and blue-green cardstock. Then cut the individual waves out and layer them as if coloring the background with paper. I did share this technique last year in another video featuring Simon's waves background. That video is called Color with Paper Stamping, in case you'd like to check it out. Next, I stamped several images from the Be a Mermaid stamp set in Simon's Intense Black ink on white cardstock, and I did quick coloring with Copic markers. I used RV00, RV10, and RV09 to color the seashells pink. I got this idea from Nina Marie Trapani. She colored the seashells on her recent card pink and yellow, and I thought that was such a fabulous idea. Otherwise, I would probably color them the natural seashell color, and I would never have thought to use pink and yellow. But you really can color these any color you like. To color both of my mermaid tails, I used B000, BG45, and BG09 markers. The mermaid tails, again, can be colored any color you want. You can make them yellow, pink, blue, green, purple, anything your heart desires, or anything that works color-wise for your project. I also used yellow markers to color the starfish, and here I went with Y11, Y08, and Y17 markers. These are small images, so not a lot of blending can take place. Doing quick coloring is really the best way to go here. There are coordinating dies available, and so I used mine off camera to cut these images out. I trimmed my heat embossed background to 4 by 5 1/4 inches, and you can see I already have my mermaid tails all colored. My idea is to slide them into the waves, and to do that, I need to make tiny slits in my background. Easily doable with a craft knife. Just remember to cut the paper on your craft mat and not on your desk. Follow the curve of the wave, and you have yourself a perfectly cut little slit. Insert one of the tails, then measure and figure out where you would want the second tail in your background and create another slit in your background, again using a craft knife. Once you have the slits made and tails inserted, you can adhere your background to a card base. Do not adhere it before, because if you adhere it and then make your slits, you'll be cutting all the way through to the inside of the card. For a brief second, you could see my original background plan for this card. It wasn't pretty. It didn't really work for my idea. I mean, it was okay. I guess it was pretty, but it didn't really work for this idea. So I just adhered the newly created background on top. My marker bled in a few areas when I was coloring my images, so here I cleaned that bleeding up using a white Sakura pen. I added my seashells using foam adhesive squares and glue. I also created a sentiment that reads positive mermaid vibes, and I love that this sentiment has a coordinating die. Actually, there are 2 sentiments in this STM set that have a coordinating die to them, and I really, really like that. I added large foam adhesive squares behind the mermaid tails, but I didn't remove the backing paper, the liner, so these aren't actually adhered to the card. They are just raised, popped up, and they sort of flip on the card, if you will. Next, to add sparkle and make the tails look sort of wet, I used the Tonic Studios Nuvo shimmer pen in glitter gloss and gave these a very, very generous coat of silver glitter. You can see all of the sparkle as I'm trying to blend the glitter into the coloring. Lastly, I added several dimensional water bubbles using Nuvo drops in Sea Breeze color. I love the way that this card turned out, and I actually have a similar project over on my blog. Here's a photo of that card. I hope you found this video useful and you will give this idea a try if you haven't already. If you make a card inspired by this video, as always, we would love it if you shared your project online and tagged us on social media. We always enjoy seeing what you guys are making. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet done so. Thanks so much for joining me today. Love you guys, and I'll see you next time.